Ever bought a high-end tower that looked amazing on the product page, only to find it struggling when you finally plugged it in for the work you actually do? I've seen that happen a lot, especially with workstations that promise unlimited power but end up bottlenecking the exact tasks they're marketed for. That hesitation is why I'm digging into the HP Z2G9 workstation today, so you can avoid wasting money on a machine that sounds great but falls short when you need it most. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about what the Z2G9 is really built for. HP positions this tower as a creator-focused machine, and the specs line up with that story: a 14th Gen Intel Core i7, 64 GB of DDR5 memory, and a 1 TB NVMe SSD. In practice, that combination shines when you're juggling several heavy applications at once. Think Adobe Premiere editing a 4K timeline while running After Effects for motion graphics, and maybe even a virtual machine for testing renders. The 64 GB of RAM means you can keep all those programs open without the dreaded out-of-memory warnings that creep in on lower-end builds. I've watched a few indie studios switch to a similar spec and report that their render queue times dropped by roughly 30% compared to their older 16 GB rigs. The SSD is another practical win. A full terabyte of PCI-based storage isn't just about capacity, it translates to near-instant project file access. When you're loading a multi-gigabyte Photoshop PSD or opening a massive 3D model in Blender, you'll notice the difference between a few seconds and a noticeable lag. That speed also helps during OS boot and application launches, which is something that often gets overlooked when reviewers just list fast SSD without connecting it to a real workflow. Now, let's get into the things you'll actually have to set up in your office or studio. The Z2G9 comes in a fairly compact tower footprint, but the chassis is still a full-size case. That means you'll need enough desk space to accommodate its depth and a proper ventilation gap behind it. HP includes a 450W power supply, which is sufficient for most mid-range professional graphics cards, say an NVIDIA RTX 3060 or a Quadro RTX 4000. If your workflow leans on high-end GPU acceleration, like real-time ray tracing in Unreal Engine or GPU-heavy AI plugins, you might bump against that power ceiling. In that scenario, you'd either have to upgrade the PSU yourself or settle for a slightly lower-spec GPU, which could erode the performance gains you were hoping for. One hidden trade-off that isn't obvious on the listing page is the lack of an integrated graphics solution that can handle anything beyond basic display output. The i7-14700 does have Intel UHD graphics, but it's really just for driving a monitor while you're setting things up. As soon as you load a 3D viewport or start a video in code, you'll need a dedicated card. The good news is the tower provides ample PCIe slots, so adding a GPU later is straightforward, but you should budget for that upgrade from the start if you know you'll need it. Connectivity-wise, the Z2G9 ships with a handful of Ethernet ports that HP touts for resource sharing. In a studio environment, that often translates to easy networked storage access. I've seen small production teams mount a shared NAS on the same network and run multi-user edits directly off the workstation without hitting bandwidth hiccups. The downside is the absence of built-in Thunderbolt 4 or USB-C 10 gigabits per second ports, which are becoming common on newer workstations. If you rely on fast external drives or docking stations, you'll have to add a PCIe expansion card, which adds another step to your build. Software-wise, the machine ships with Windows 11 Pro. That's more than just a UI upgrade, it brings BitLocker, Hyper-V, and advanced group policy controls that are useful for freelancers who need to secure client data or run sandboxed environments. The Pro license also means you can join a domain if you're part of a larger company, something that Windows 11 Home can't do. For most creative professionals, those features are a subtle but real boost to workflow security and flexibility. Who should consider the HP Z2G9? If you're a video editor who regularly works with 4K or 8K footage, a 3D artist whose scenes exceed a few million polygons, or a data scientist needing to spin up several virtual machines on a single machine, this workstation hits a sweet spot. The combination of a high core count CPU, massive RAM, and fast SSD means you won't hit a wall when you add another software layer. Small studios that need a reliable, set-and-forget box for daily render farms will also appreciate the built-in manageability tools that HP bundles with its Pro OS. On the flip side, if your primary tasks are office suite work, light photo editing, or casual gaming, you'll likely be paying a premium for capabilities you'll never fully use.